when we were kids, whenever we'd go to the mall, back when we went to things like public spaces and we could do that freely without being judged, and we could be close to each other and didn't have to wear masks. We could see smiles and faces, which is great to see out here today. Remember, we'd go to the mall and they'd have those pictures out in those kiosks for sale, and it just like a bunch of garbled up colors. But if you looked at it long enough and you looked at it in the right way, you saw a picture. Maybe it was a ship, a pirate ship, or a shark or something like that swimming in the water. You remember those pictures that were out there? You kind of had to look cross-eyed at them to see it. But once you saw it, you always saw it. I've been thinking about the state of Texas recently, about how the spirit of this state, you either see it or you don't. You either get it or you don't. Because the spirit of Texas, it's not taught, it's caught. It's infectious. And what I keep telling people everywhere I go is that Texas is not the Texas that most Texans think it is anymore. Because we've lost vision of the spirit of Texas and what it looks like. Right now, we're trailing. Right now, our leadership in Austin is putting the finger up in the air to see which way the winds are blowing, read the newspaper, sending out opinion polls every week, listening to the news to see what Ron DeSantis said 5 days ago and how people responded to that. And then they go to say the same things. That's not the way Texas should be. Texas should be leading in these issues. Texas should be number one in these issues. I grew up in the state of Georgia. I'd like to tell people tongue-in-cheek, but it's true. I was conceived in Dallas. I believe life begins at conception, so I'm a Texan, all right? There you go. Now, I grew up in the state of Georgia, my mother's home state. Went to the University of Georgia. Then 20 years ago, I came and moved to Fort Worth, Texas, and fell in love with the state of Texas. And to me, it's the center of the universe. To me, there's no greater place. To me, you can breathe here. You can see the sky here. You can see expansive views. It's a beautiful place with beautiful people. A people who have what I like to call a humble arrogance. We walk a little bit taller. We walk a little bit prouder. We stick our chest out. We hold our head up. But in these days, we've been taken down a notch or two. I have people who say to me, as I travel across the country, they say, why isn't Texas doing what Kristi Noem's doing in South Dakota? I don't want to be South Dakota. I want to be Texas. South Dakota doesn't have its own toast. There's no waffle irons in the shape of South Dakota. This is Texas. We fly our flag at the same height as a U.S. flag. We know what it's like to be independent. We know what it's like to have been a republic. We know what it's like to fight for freedom. And that's what we need to be doing. So my goal in all of this that I'm doing as we look towards 2022 and these races that are coming up is that we be as free as we can possibly be. We were treated last year like children. We were unilaterally and dictatorially told that we had to shut businesses down. We had to separate from one another. We had to stay at home. We had to put on what I call a half-face safe space and wear a mask everywhere we go in public. We were treated like we didn't know what responsibility was. Do you remember when Hurricane Harvey hit? We showed what kind of responsibility for our neighbors we had. We loaded up, we went down into these cities where it was flooded and people were losing their homes. And in a matter of weeks, we had this situation under control because we came together. We didn't wait on the federal government. We didn't wait for some kind of spending bill to get passed. We didn't wait for some kind of help to come. We helped each other. That's the kind of people Texans are.
Hoorah!
There's no other place in the world like Texas. I have people who come to the United States to visit from other countries, and they say, man, it doesn't matter to me that we came to the U.S. We just love the fact that we came to Texas. Because when we go home, people from Australia, our neighbors in Australia, they're going to say, did you get to visit Texas? We carry a responsibility and a legacy and this history that we're losing today. What I want to do is get back to helping people understand that we're still writing history. But right now, decisions are being made in Austin, Texas, that leaves an untenable future for our next generation. We could tell the stories of the Houstons and the Travises and the Fannons and the Crockett's and the Bowies. We can tell those stories. But what are we going to tell the next generation about this day and age in Texas? I want us to write a history and leave a legacy. And the only way we're going to do that is we get a vision for where we need to go. And that vision leads us into our destiny, and we leave something great behind. I believe in freedom. I believe in unmandating this state. Not just saying we're going to do it, but demanding that it gets done. I believe that we need to have freedom from a tyranny in Washington, D.C. that has no interest whatsoever in what's going on right here in our lives. And I do believe we need to have the right to legislate ourselves. We need to have the right. I'm not saying that this is the time to secede. This is the time that we make sure we have the right to do it if the time ever comes. That's not a popular opinion. But see, history is dangerous. And we've got to be living dangerously today. People have asked me various questions out here as we've talked and we've chatted, and I'm so thankful for the support. But I do believe in medical freedom. I'm 100% vaccine choice. Many of you have asked about that. I believe that you have the right to raise your children how you want to raise them. I don't believe that we need to continue turning their brains over to these indoctrination centers of public education the way that it is set up right now. I am pro-teacher, but I believe it's time that we take the reins off of our teachers and let them teach, test, and educate as they've been trained to do, and quit standardizing everything out there, because these kids don't come standardized. Why are we putting them through the pressure of standardized testing? Let's educate our children. Let's teach them civics. If you get on social media, you realize how many people don't know a thing about the way politics works. They don't understand. I'm not out to divide, split a vote. I'm running to primary the current governor. It's not a popular place to be. I'm out there to make sure that that vote doesn't get split. That's why I'm running on the Republican ticket and not as an independent. There's no pride in this. I want people to learn civics. Personally, I'd like to see our high school kids have to pass the citizenship test as a requirement for graduating high school. These are the things that we need to do. These are the places we need to be. These are the things we need to focus on. Shelley mentioned the border. If I were the governor right now, I would take 100,000 citizens of Texas right down there, and we would demonstrate a show of Texan citizenry force that says you will not encroach on our state. I don't care what Joe Biden or Kamala Harris has to say. This is our state. Our Constitution originally gave us the right to protect our borders, and that's what we need to do. If not, our freedoms will be gone. They will be lost. Our culture will be gone as Texans. We will not have a history that looks back and says, wow, these people in a time of crisis stood, and they stood strong. There's a poem from 100 years ago that says there's a man in this world that's never turned down, wherever he chances to stray. He gets a glad hand in a populous town and out here where the farmers make hay. He's greeted with pleasure in deserts of sand and deep in the aisle of the woods. Wherever he goes, there's a welcoming hand. He's the man who delivers the goods. I want us to be the people who catch a vision and we deliver those goods. And the rest of America sits up, takes notice, and says, we need to be like Texas. It's time for Texas to be Texas again. God bless you guys. Thank you for coming out. Prayers for our nation, prayers for our state. May God bless the great state of Texas.